Hello, my name is Keith Kreischer. I'm the Executive Director of the IoT M2M Council, or IMC, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to track one of our IoT Days summer event presented by the IMC. The topic for this track is IoT in healthcare, and our entire event is going to be concentrating on humanitarian applications for IoT, but we chose healthcare to start off this first session because it's particularly pertinent. By the way, we're going to have a 40 to 45 minute panel that starts with some very short presentations to discuss healthcare, and we'll follow that up with a 10-minute spotlight presentation on LEO satellite connectivity for IoT. And believe it or not, the two subjects are related. Omar Qaise of OQtechnology is going to talk to us about satellites, and there is a connection between satellites and healthcare. So stick around if you're wondering how satellites might affect you in the healthcare sector. You can see a full schedule in the resources section of your interface for this track, and I'll be introducing our first panel for this session in just a minute. But before we begin, we wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your screen are multiple application widgets you can use. All the widgets are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to get the most out of your desktop space. You can expand your slide area or maximize it to full screen by clicking on the arrows in the top right corner. The webcast today is being streamed through your computer, so there is no dial-in number. For the best audio quality, please make sure your computer speakers or headset are turned on and the volume is up so you can hear the presenters. If your slides are delayed, pushing F5 on your keyboard will refresh the page. You can find additional answers to some common technical issues located in the Help widget at the bottom of your screen. An on-demand version of this webcast will be made available later today and can be accessed using the same audience link you sent to you earlier. If you have questions during the webcast, you can submit them through the Q&A widget. The presenters may answer questions at the end of each session, but please feel free to ask questions at any time during the presentations. Any unanswered questions will be responded to offline. Please be sure to check out resources that our presenters will provide through the webcast interface, as well as full biographies for all the speakers. I'll be introducing folks, but I tend to abbreviate, so their full biographies will be on display through the interface. Now I'd like to just say a quick word about the IMC. The IoT M2M Council is the largest trade organization dedicated to the IoT sector with 25,000 rank and file members. We have essentially two levels of membership: adopter members, who are individual product makers, designers, enterprise users, and apps developers that deploy IoT solutions. And then we have sustaining members, which are roughly 35 companies that provide IoT solutions in the form of connectivity, hardware, and software. Our IMC adopters don't pay a fee, but qualify to join our group as IoT buyers. They join to get the best IoT content there is, including our extensive library of hundreds of use cases, white papers, news items, blogs, and research. If you qualify as an IoT buyer, I suggest you check out our website where you can apply for membership. Our IMC sustaining companies join our group to get exclusive access to the 25,000 adopter members for purposes of thought leadership, lead gen, promotion, and research. Our sustainers come from some of the very largest companies providing IoT solutions, but also from smaller, nimble technology providers. As a group, they form our IMC Board of Governors and represent the most influential group of IoT leaders there is. If you have an interest in joining this group, please reach out to me personally via our website. We look at the IMC as an industry accelerator. Our mission is to bring adopters and solutions providers together to deploy IoT technology for the public good. And we see this event on humanitarian applications for IoT and today's session on healthcare and satellite connectivity as exactly in keeping with that mission. Please stay tuned. And with that, I'd like to introduce Omar Qaise, who is a representative of OQtechnologies on the IMC Board of Governors, but he's also founder and CEO of OQ, which is a startup focused on building 5G LEO satellite constellations dedicated to IoT communications to serve all areas, but especially remote and rural areas. Omar's worked for years in the satellite telecom industries, including time at the European Space Agency, the German Aerospace Center, O3B, and UMITSAT, working both on LEO and GEO connectivity. Most recently, he's been with SES Satellites, concentrating on M2M in the oil and gas sectors. Omar, welcome, and good afternoon to you.
Thank you very much, Keith. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to the panel members and also all the listeners. So uh, um, I will dive into the topic that really I want to talk about harnessing the power of IoT and 5G, how we are revolutionizing the satellite technology, and link that also to the topic of today, which is really IoT in healthcare. So I'd like to start with this statement, which I'm really find it very relevant to what we're doing here, which is really ensuring interoperability, fostering security and scalability through standardizations. IoT standardization will contribute to efficient growth across diverse industries. And I've been listening to the panel, and one of the gentlemen was brought that idea also, that how standardization is helping in accelerate really the deployment of best IoT service to in the medical and the healthcare sector. So just to give you a short introduction about the company, we were founded back in 2016 in Luxembourg. We have presence in different parts of the world. We're getting into the US. We are already present in UAE and Saudi Arabia and Greece and Africa and Rwanda. We have a global coverage using our satellite constellation that we are expanding. Currently, we have 5 satellites in orbit, 5 more to be launched end of this year. And then next year, we're adding even more to grow the full constellation. The idea is really to provide ubiquitous connectivity for everyone, everywhere. But the difference is we really focus on using 5G narrowband IoT technology rather than coming with an own proprietary solution. And that's really helps in having a fast, secure, and reliable integration of products and services. Today, using that technology, we can roam between terrestrial and satellite networks. And we are having global diversified partnerships that such a marriage between like terrestrial and satellite 5G allows us to do, whether in terms of technology, manufacturing, or even the distribution of the service. And we are active in different verticals. So really, what's in our heart, at the heart of our OQtechnology, is the interoperability, the standardization of 5G IoT platforms based on the 3GPP standard group, which standardizes all the cellular communication. So if you look across the different elements of an IoT service, you have the IoT platforms, which are really being standardized now, and having such having a standard that allows the interoperability among these different IoT platforms will ensure very flexible and fast operation deployment of service, reduce the overhead and the cost of integration. The same also standardization can help in the management of devices. So all devices which are using 5G, they can connect to our satellite network anywhere in the world, in addition to the traditional and existing terrestrial operators. Also, like users could build different applications for IoT and different services they can develop using such an infrastructure. As interoperability I mentioned is very essential, but most importantly also is security and privacy, which is very important in the health sector also. So robust security features could be really offered by providing by following the standard of 5G in terms of authentication, encryption, and communication in the network. So I'll go to the next slide. So we're really supporting vital sectors because we are compatible with the existing cellular ecosystem. So any IoT device or service that is connecting to cellular network can also connect to our satellites, especially in remote or rural areas, because this is where you need the satellites, whereas the last mile connectivity is an issue. the major issues appears that you can connect like 90 or 99% of the regions. Like one of the gentlemen was saying, in the US you have very good connectivity, more than 90%, but the issues with last mile, and the problem with last mile connectivity is very distributed in large numbers. You cannot put an infrastructure to address all these separate distributed large number of points, and that's why satellite is the only viable means and infrastructure to cover that. Our idea is to have really global connectivity with one solution, to have real-time data collection, enhance their productivity and efficiency, safety and security, allow users to have access to their data remote, and manage their assets remotely. And we are a great ESG enabler. So if we look at the telemedicine and healthcare, really 5G IoT over satellite has a great potential to revolutionize this sector. So it will benefit both the patient and the healthcare providers. It will enable remote patient monitoring, telemedicine, even personalized medical services. Most importantly, which is also one of our main missions, is to bridge the digital divide between urban and remote rural areas. You still have a lot of people living there that still need connectivity. You have a lot of IoT devices, and you have patients, you have mobile hospitals, and you will need satellite connectivity. And also we see a trend in now with wearable health trackers, apps, and providing connectivity, whether it's to consumers or even to professional users, is essential. And using satellite, we can IoT, we can really achieve large cost reductions, increase the efficiency, reduce the investment required in terrestrial infrastructure. So if I look at the perspective of how satellite IoT is an ESG enabler, so there's a lot of positive impact on ESG from our perspective. First, on the environment, because for example, we with environmental monitoring can reduce the energy consumption, lower the carbon emission, carbon footprint, monitor like the different environmental phenomena, wildfires, reduce also prevent catastrophes like oil pipeline leak detection early on, to prevent hazardous events. The same with is on the sea. On the social also is really where improving the quality of life and enabling inclusive services, reducing the digital divide between urban and remote areas. And on the governance side also, it's we provide the necessary information that decision makers, business owners, and institutes need to make the right decisions, and set their targets for the policies that they need to develop. And in the end, of course, this is one of the we play a major role in the battle against climate change, and we are very proud of that. This is just giving you an idea also of how, for example, on the government side, satellite IoT and deployment of 5G IoT over satellites plays an important role, and mainly on two major areas. One is, with respect to securing government infrastructure, whether it's in defense or energy sector, or prevention of natural disasters, as our monitoring and of that, and asset management. And the same with smart cities, so reducing really the energy consumption, improve the safety, security, and the overall quality of life, whether it's with road safety, monitoring of energy consumption, public transportation, smart metering, waste management, and much more. And with that, I hope I gave a very brief idea with the given time to me about the company and what we do. I'm very happy to take any questions, Keith.
Great stuff, Omar. Really, really interesting, and I find that the healthcare connection particularly interesting. But first, talk to us a little bit about just LEO satellite connectivity. I mean, in terms of, at one point you were talking about last mile connections and trying to scale those. everyone is talking about LEO and how, it changes the cost structure of satellite connectivity. Can you expand on that? Talk to us a little bit about, what role LEO satellite for all IoT connectivity is kind of changing the whole dynamic.
Yeah, so the advantage you have, I mean, with Leo is that, and with the reduced access to space, you are able like to provide very quick and fast, low latency coverage anywhere in the world, using very low cost devices, very low cost infrastructure. It's the if you look at the old computer, they've been huge and big and expensive, and with time, they became much smaller. That your phone is much powerful than the Apollo computer, but the same happened with satellite after a long time. They've been always like the space sector was not really disrupted until SpaceX came in and other companies. So things change now, and we can today deploy the whole constellation, with which is 5 times much cheaper than just launching one big old geo satellite, and that's the big
Right.
difference. And this trickles down into the cost of service accessibility to users anywhere in the world. And the same thing with connecting IoT devices, because you have all these billions of IoT devices. They need really to connect, but they operate on a battery. They need to be low power. You cannot have big antenna. They are used to connect like to cell towers. Even like in cell towers, like you need to have a specific waveform for that, which is like the Northbound IoT. And with geo, that's is very difficult. It will be, when your geo satellite 35,000 kilometer away from the Earth, while our satellites are 500 kilometer on the atmosphere away. So you're closer, and you can connect such devices easily with their low power batteries, rather than really needing a big dish and connecting to satellite.
Right.
So it is a game changer.
So the cost structure has been changed, not just because it's less expensive to put birds in the sky, at in LEO context, but also because the hardware required on the ground is also, standard hardware, right? I mean, you don't need geo-specific hardware to accept data.
Yeah, exactly, that's the beauty of following a standard technology like 5G. Like, if you have a phone that uses 5G, it will work with any operator anywhere in the world, and any other phones following same standard will work also with any other operator, and that's how we could have a big ecosystem, instead of having like a proprietary technology, rebuilding an ecosystem from scratch, which is very difficult, and that limits scalability for satellite operators.
Right. Talk to us about the benefits for satellite IoT in healthcare. We just had a healthcare panel. I know you guys do a lot more than healthcare, but talk to us about healthcare. What are some of the benefits you see?
So, really, IoT technology through satellite brings a lot of benefits to the healthcare. So, including like as I said, telemedicine. It helps doctors, paramedics, and patients. So, for example, it allows checking on patients if they are located in a remote area that lack access to terrestrial communication. By having wearable devices where doctors could remotely log in and monitor the status of people. And we've seen such cases, some like, people living in remote areas, there's nothing else, and doctors need to keep monitoring that person. And also it helps in accelerate emergent response. So paramedics, they could have easily have access to information, and in situations like that, and having connectivity is very important in order to respond to emergency cases, and in areas where connectivity is very is you have gaps in connectivity. It's important to use satellites so that you have continuous coverage, and also ensuring quick access to health records or information that you need. Like, you could have like situations where you have mobile hospitals, or people like in Africa, and they are somewhere, or in a remote area, and they are providing some service, NGOs, and they need to like send information, get back information, and we had one potential customer, where the use case was really they have a device that they use to test people in remote areas or in villages for potential cancer, especially for women. But they need to relay data, to some expert who did the analysis back then, and they are moving between in different villages and stuff. And satellite is the perfect solution for that. So that really leverages the satellite IoT connectivity solution, and it improves the services offered in the healthcare sector.
That segues nicely into an ESG conversation about things like disaster relief and sustainable infrastructure. Our event today and tomorrow is all about humanitarian applications for IoT. Talk to us about the role of satellite when it comes to things like disaster response and sustainable infrastructure.
Thank you, Keith, for this question. So, whenever there's a disaster, whether it's natural or man-made, the thing that, the first things that are cut is, electricity, water, and telecommunication. So this is very critical, and here comes the role of satellite, and especially in the field of satellite IoT. What you can provide is really coordinating the search and rescue operations to save lives, assessment of the damage that happened, getting reports of the different sites and casualties, ensuring continuity of major government tasks and operations if there's not anymore terrestrial telecom infrastructure, managing the evacuation and processes and mass care, and finally also coordinating the reconstruction and of all the terrestrial networks and service. So really, satellite is very important in terms of providing connectivity during disaster and after, and that's really where we play this role, that we can step in case a disaster strikes as satellite IoT operators.
Right. Terrific stuff. We are out of time. Omar, really appreciate you coming to talk to us today. And I'm sure we'll be hearing more about LEO satellite connectivity when it comes to IoT applications. Thanks to you, Omar, for joining us, and to our audience as well. Please join us tomorrow, where we'll be doing 2 tracks. One on why the world needs IoT. We'll be talking about low power applications and intelligent infrastructure as well. So those are all tracks that will be coming online tomorrow. We hope you'll join us. Until then, thanks again.